Hey, welcome and thank you for joining me on lesson 1 of this Development Consulting Mastery program. I'm really excited that you've decided to be a part of this program because it speaks to your level of commitment in advancing your career to the next level. Your decision to learn more about becoming a development consultant and international development consultant speaks to the fact that you want to make a difference not just in your own financial life, but also in the world at large. And so we're going to be working together over the next 12 weeks, as a matter of fact, over the next year, to ensure that your story is a success story as an international development professional. So my name again is Dan Maxwell Jr. and welcome to this lesson. What I want you to do is to make sure you have a notebook with you, you have a pen with you, and you take as much notes as you can, and always come back to this video if you need to. So in this lesson, we're looking at careers in international development. Why is that important? Well, if you're going to become an international development consultant, it's important for you to understand how international development organizations are structured as far as careers are concerned, all right? Because that way you know where you fit in as a consultant. Without that knowledge, you will struggle for a very long time in this business. But once you understand the fundamentals when it comes to international development careers, you are now positioned to make the best decisions possible for your success as an international development professional. So we're going to look at options in international development careers. We'll look at some of the benefits and challenges associated with these career options, and we'll look at requirements. What does it take to become an international development consultant? So let's get right into it. What you see here is a framework for many international development organizations in terms of how they're set up, how they're structured. All right. At the top, you have the organization, so we will replace that with NGO. Now, this can be Save the Children, it could be the UN, it could be German Development Corporation, it could be the Swiss Development Corporation, it could be the Japanese International Cooperative Agency, JICA, it could be any other, Mercy Corps, Plan International, you name it, all right? Now above here, above the head of the organization, obviously it's a governance structure. We're not going to go into that right now. For those of you that will become strategic planning consultants, we will have a special training where we'll look at governance. So those of us that work in governance will look into that in later on in the program. But for now, let's just look at the operational structure. There are two main parts to that structure: the programs unit and finance and administration. Now, some organizations have a third part, and that is the monitoring and evaluation stroke learning unit. In many organizations, that function is under the programs unit. There are few that have that function under finance and admin, but there are some that have them separate, all right? But we'll stick with the basic model that has M&E under the programs unit, all right? Now, under programs, you have projects. So you have individual projects. Each international development organization at any given time may be working on multiple projects. There may be projects around health. There may be projects around education. There may be projects around infrastructure development. There may be projects around malnutrition, maternal mortality rates, college, job readiness. I mean, just multiple projects. So at any given point, an organization may have a number of different projects going on. So that's a unit under programs. And then you have the communications unit. The communications unit is responsible to capture everything that's going on within an organization and share that with the rest of the world. So communications unit will usually maintain the NGO's website or their social media page. They will do newsletters. They will publish case studies. All of that falls under communications. There's a third unit that sometimes exists in addition to M&E under programs, and that is business development or grant writing. These are the guys that look out for funding for the organization from philanthropic organizations and governments. So the U.S. government through USAID is a major source of funding for many organizations. So is the Swedish government, the Chinese. The Chinese do majority of their own implementations, but you get the idea. All right. So when it comes to doing proposals to get funding from other governments or other organizations, then the grant writing team or the business development team comes to play. Some organizations have that responsibility also on the project, and many of them have them separate. So again, it's just, these are some of the individual differences that exist. And then under finance and administration, you have the accounting unit. So these are the guys who manage all the accounts, manage the bank accounts, the internal charts of accounts, disbursements. They make sure that the monies are accounted for. You have the procurement and supply chain unit. So these are the guys who's responsible for buying and maintaining assets. So these guys, again, depending on the organization, you may have them also involved with warehousing. If it's a relief program that's taking food, humanitarian aid, you may have them like UNICEF or the World Food Program. They manage multiple warehouses across the country wherever they are. And so you have warehousing unit here. You will have shipping and receiving under this unit. And you will have fleet management sometimes fall under here as well. Okay? And there are times that fleet management and asset management will be also a separate unit from the finance and admin. And then you have human resource. So these are the guys that are responsible for hiring, for making sure that human capital needs are met within the institution. All right? Now, this is not by any chance exhaustive, because each institution I keep mentioning is different in its own way, and there may be further subunits under these. But generally, this is the larger framework around which all international development organizations are established. To make this framework work, there's a need for multiple expertise. Now, remember I talked about programs and projects? Depending on what kind of programs this NGO is working on, that's how you have certain skill sets being required. So, a microfinance project, for example, will work with banking and finance professionals. And so will an impact investment project. They will also work with banking and finance professionals. They may also work with investment bankers. You know, the World Bank and the African Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, these guys hire investment bankers to manage their loan portfolios that they give out to countries. That's in international development as well. So let's look at some possible areas, and this is just a tip of the iceberg in terms of different careers that exist in international development. Agriculture and rural development, banking and finance, as I mentioned, economic development, careers and education. This is my own space here. Environmental and natural resources, public health, procurement and logistics, military, police, criminal justice, legal professions, all, project management, IT and ICT, marketing, media and communications. Even religious professionals have their place in international development, especially when it comes to peace building. Because a lot of the conflicts around, especially around Africa, West Africa, are religious-driven conflicts. These conflicts come from religious tensions, and so religious leaders have the ability to to bridge the peace by serving as mediators and learning about peace and building and conflict mitigation. And so they also have their role to play in international development. Now, these opportunities provide the chance for you to work in international development either as an employee or as a consultant. So you could be an employee or you could be a consultant. What's the difference? Well, let's look at the similarities first. Whether you're an employee or a consultant, you are there to help the organization solve a particular problem that your skill sets can solve. All right? Now, many times, employees are hired for the long term, where they know that this position is needed as long as this organization exists, we will need a particular position. In that case, an employee is hired. Consultants, on the other hand, are hired for shorter term positions. So we know that we're running this project for the next 2 years, and so for these 2 years, we need somebody to maintain this function. In that case, we're not going to get a permanent employee, we'll get a consultant. That's one option. Now, some projects will still go ahead and hire an employee on a contract base, not as a permanent employee, but as a contractor and for a 2-year contract. So you need to understand that as well. But let's also look at some other differences. As an employee, when it comes to benefits, you have a certain level of security. Especially if you're a permanent employee, you know that unless you breach a particular policy, unless you violate the employee handbook or the code of ethics or something of the sort, you are secured for the duration of your employment, and usually that's up to retirement. And retirement age is around 60 or based on the number of years you've worked with the entity, with the institution. So there's a certain level of job security when it comes to being an employee. Also, you have things like insurance, medical, life insurance that's paid for by the institution that you work for. You have educational grants that also come from your employer. And you get sponsored travels, conferences, learning opportunities. You get sponsored travels. Sometimes you even get to do exchange with your counterparts from other countries to see how they're working there. So, and those are all paid for by the institution. So those are pretty good perks that come with being an employee. On the other hand, there are things that you don't quite get, and that is flexibility. But actually, let me just put it on the consultant, because these are the things that the consultants get. As a consultant, you don't have the security of working in a particular job until you retire, but you do have flexibility. All right. Now, some of you who are students from your applications, I see that you've already been here. You've been an employee in international development, and you've now retired, but you still have the energy, you still have the vigor, and you still want to work. And now what you need is the flexibility to be able to work, but still do the things you want to do, still travel, and still have some fun, spend more time with your kids, so you have that flexibility. As a consultant, you have the opportunity to make more money. You don't get the insurance, you don't get the educational grants, you don't get the sponsored travels, but you make a heck of a lot more money than an employee. For example, a typical consultancy will pay you $500 a day. All right, that's for 8 hours of work. Exactly. But you see, as a consultant, you're not really paid for the amount of hours you work. Even though that's what it says, daily rate, But as a consultant, you have deliverables that you must meet. And once you meet your deliverables, it's agreed that you have spent X amount of time to do that. And if it takes one person 3 days to deliver on one project, and it takes me 1 day to do it, so far as we've agreed that it costs 3 days to do that work, even if it took me 1 day to do it, I still get paid for 3 days. And so these are the kinds of flexibilities and ways by which we can make money as consultants in international development. So you make more money and you are able to handle all of the insurance and education and travel yourself. Where you are making $500 a day, if you're working on a 30-day project, that's 5 times 30. All right, so you've got a good bit of money that's coming in right there, $6,000 or so. That's coming. Is that right? No, $15,000. Okay, that's coming in for you for the period. Now, a person who was working on a similar job as an employee will probably be making $5K as their monthly salary, and they will have taxes and their own co-payments deducted as well. So you see the opportunities that come with being a consultant. If you want to make more money, if you want more flexibility, you can get more of that as a consultant. Now, there's also something a lot of people don't know. You see here, when it comes to sponsored travels, as a consultant, there are things you can do, there are ways you can position yourself that will cause these very organizations to pay your way to travel the world because you have what they're looking for. And these are some of the things that you will learn in the program as you move along. All right. Many of the trips that I make internationally, I don't pay for out of my own pocket. I just position myself. If I know I want to go and hang out in a particular country, I start to find projects in that country that excite me, and I network. And within a matter of 3 months or so, I have a contract that's taking me there, paid for by an international development organization in that country. I get to do the work, but I still get to have fun and see the country. And so that's part of, unlimited travels. That's one thing that really attracts me to international development consulting. All right. So these are some of the benefits that come with becoming a consultant. All right. Something else that I need to mention is maybe consulting is not for you, because the truth is you don't get the security. When you work, you get paid. When you have no work, you have no pay. And so you need to do certain things to make sure that you always have projects coming in. And once you position yourself, then security is not an issue. But if you don't do the work, if you don't apply yourself, and if you don't take the lessons that we're going to give you in this program to ensure that you always have new projects coming in, you will soon be sitting with your hands between your legs and saying, this consulting thing is not working. All right? But maybe it's not for you. Maybe you actually enjoy the job security, and maybe you're younger and you want to spend more time working for an organization and you want to go the employee path. Let me tell you, as an employee, you are hired through human resources. That process is a heck of a lot longer than the process of hiring a consultant who is hired through the procurement process. So as an employee, they will first advertise internally for the position, and then if nobody applies, they'll advertise it externally, and you have to wait 30 days. People apply, and they have to vet the CVs, and then they will set up first round interviews, second round interviews, then you go to do testing, and then you have to verify credentials. And that entire process, I have seen people for whom it took 7 to 8 months from the time they applied for a job to when they started to work. As a consultant, on the other hand, it's a whole different game. Because usually consultants are hired for urgent needs. And so when the need is there and a consultant is being hired, they're not going to go through that group of 7 months to hire you. No, they probably advertise it for a week, and those who apply, they're reviewed, and a decision is made the following week. Literally that fast that the consultants are hired. All right. So the process is a whole lot easier to hire a consultant. Now, if you do want to work in international development, let's say for me now that I've spent over 10 years as an international development consultant, for some reason that I don't know yet, if I were to decide that I wanted a job in international development, like to become an employee, it's easy because I have worked for so many organizations and I have networked with them, and I know the HRs, I know the country directors, I know the chief of parties. So I could literally shorten my recruitment process by 50 to 60% simply because they know my quality of work, and I wouldn't have to be scrutinized as a new person would be. So consulting is an easier path to get your foot in the door, plus you get to make a heck of a lot more money than an employee, and that's always good because you can do more good with it, you can impact your family better, you can travel, you can have a lot more fun. So that's what it takes. All right. So what are the requirements, whether an employee or consultant? Well, obviously, for the very entry-level jobs, you may just need a high school diploma, but that's not why we're here. We're here because we're professionals, and we're here because we want to make a bigger difference. And so for that, it requires at least a master's degree or equivalent in whatever your profession is, and 8+ years of experience. Now you can start with 5 and you will get some progress, but my experience has suggested that by the time you are able to demonstrate, and don't let this sound like it's a big thing because it's not so big. You can demonstrate it. Now, when I began consulting, I really started with 5, maybe this was I had kind of with just about 5 to 6 years of experience. So I had not hit the 8-year mark. But I really began to make bigger breaks when I hit the 8-year mark, when I could say, yes, I have 8+ years experience in business development, in career development, in education and training. All right. As of today, I have over 14 years experience. All right. 10 of those years has been in international development consulting. But when I started, I didn't have 14 years experience. I had 4. Okay. So yeah, it's actually 4. I have 4 years experience, and so I did get my foot in. It was a lot harder to get gigs, but I did get gigs with persistence, with hard work, and I will show you some of the things I did eventually. But when you come with 8 years experience in your profession and a master's degree, you can get projects very fast, and those are the 2 basic requirements. Additionally, and we'll talk about this more, you need to publish. Now, you don't have to publish a whole book, but we'll teach you exactly what you need to publish and how you need to publish to communicate that you are ready for consulting. So these are really they're very simple requirements, and if you meet these requirements, you are ready to become an international development consultant. All right? And that's the essence of this lesson, to show you what the landscape is, what the opportunities are, and what it takes to succeed. Now that you know this, what we want to do in our next lesson is to get our first contract. You see, for me, I'm all about results. So how can you get your first contract? In 30 days or less. Now, it may sound very scary, but I have a complete action plan that if you implement this by day 30, you may not have signed the contract, but you'll be damn sure on where that contract is coming from. You might have concluded negotiations already. And for many of you, you will have signed the contract. So that's the next lesson we'll have. How do we get our first consulting contract in 30 days or less? It might be a small contract. It might just be a $2,000 contract. It might be a $5,000 contract, or it might even be a $10,000 contract. But the size of it at this point wouldn't matter. What matters is that you get your first contract as fast as possible, and we're going to do it in 30 days. So thank you so much for being with me on this lesson, and let's get ready for the next lesson, and you will be a success as a consultant in international development. I see you there.